All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving break. I know it's difficult to ease back into the swing of things, especially on a Monday, but I'm sure we're ready to rock and roll and finish out this semester strong. So you'll notice that I have a couple of new things on your course landing page that have some hyperlinks. So if you still have yet to join my Remind, you need to, because I text a lot of people, especially individually, when you're missing something. It's a faster way to get a hold of me than it is messaging me on Schoology or on email. Your English 2 videos are here. When you click on this link, it'll take you to my playlist. So when you're absent, or when you don't check your Schoology or you have a missing assignment, you just click on that playlist and find the day that it was due, and I guarantee you I've already went over instructions on that, rather than, again, emailing me really long, drawn-out emails where you could just answer your questions by watching videos. I also have the tutoring form should you need help on any assignment, especially after hours. You complete that form and a Northside teacher will get back to you. But then there are two things I want to make sure that you have access to. So the week at a glance I used to put in your folders, and now it's going to be linked here. So when you click on it, it'll open up the document, and you can see everything that we're doing, what you should be doing per night, or, it's very minimal, but this is essentially the general gist of each week. In addition to your agendas. And so that link will always have the current week at a glance. And so I'll change it again for next week, so on and so forth. And then when you click on the second mark-in period assignments, you will see that I have a list of every assignment that is in the gradebook so far. Okay. You'll also see that there are links that say 6th period or 7th period. These links take you directly to Schoology, where the assignments were due, where you can look at all the folders and all the information, rather than trying to do that on your own, which I know can be very overwhelming, which could be also a reason why people don't do it. So now that I have it here, it's a live link. And so any assignments that are coming up that are going to be due, I will do the same thing. I'll list it here. I'll tell you when they were due, and I'll even be so kind as to link the class period appropriate link for you, so that way you don't have to go fishing through things. Just another thing to help make your life easier, to make sure that you turn in your assignments on time. And then you'll see that you have a new Zoom link here with the password and everything. And then, of course, all of our multi-genre stuff we'll go over eventually. So as I mentioned, your writer's notebook will be due on Fridays, and it'll always be here. You can always find it again in the multi-genre folder. You could also find it in daily folder. Like, I'm going to link it everywhere. There should never be a reason why you can't find your writer's notebook. So let's go into today's folder so we can figure out what we need to complete for today. Now, before the break, we talked about moving into our multi-genre unit. And so you have an assignment that needs to be done in the writer's notebook first. So we're going to click on your writer's notebook link, go ahead and open up the document. And those of you who haven't opened it yet, everything is current. If you've already opened it, you'll see that there is a new slide for today's prompt. Okay. In order for you to complete today's assignment, the first things you need to do are look at these two different versions of Batman. And they're short clips, and you should be familiar with the Batman comic. One of them is from the 1960s, and the other one is from the Dark Knight movie. So there's clearly going to be two different representations of Batman. And so you'll just respond right here in the text box. What do you notice about these two versions of the superhero? And how do the different approaches affect you as a viewer? So one of the main things I'm going to say that I notice, obviously Batman and Robin were a thing, but more contemporary versions of Batman are really focused on Batman, and there's really not a lot of Robin affiliations. In some of the newer movies there are, but they're not necessarily his sidekick. So that would be something that you can notice, right? But then how do the two different approaches, are one, is one really cringy? Is one difficult to watch? That would be something you need to do. So before you do anything else, I need you to pause this video and complete this thing first. Okay, click on pause and complete this assignment. Okay, hopefully you did it. And at this point, we're going to move on so I can talk you through it. I'm going to give away some spoiler alerts. So if you haven't watched the video, the two different versions on this, you need to go back and do it. Also, in this writer's notebook folder, you'll see that my example is here, and you can look at my 4th page to look at some sentence stems that might help you. So right here, this would be a great way to add in your response. So I noticed this about the first version of Batman, which stood out to me because. I noticed this about the second version, which stood out to me because. The different approaches affected me as a viewer because in the first video, this was my reaction. In the second video, this was my reaction. So the 2 first things are about observations, and the last one is about reactions. Okay. So that would be a really great way. You don't have to do it, but that would be something that I suggest. Okay, so once you've done that, you're going to go into the multi-genre notes page, and there's quite a bit of information. So I'm going to review it with you, nice and easy. So again, you should have completed these things in the writer's notebook. If you haven't, you need to go do that now. And I also relinked the 2 different versions of Batman here, so you don't have to be going through folders again. So in both of them, we compared using the intended effect, the genre and characteristics, and then the purpose and audience. And so in the 1960s version of Batman, it was light, it was kind of funny, it was kind of goofy. You can tell by the silly costumes. In the 60s, it was more of a TV show. These weren't movies. And so it was more of a sitcom. There were silly costumes and action sequences. The superhero aspect was humorous, and it was just a lighthearted show. The purpose of that show was to really ease the burden of what was going on in the 60s. So when you think about what's happening in the 60s, you've got Vietnam, you had the assassination of JFK, you had civil rights movement. There was a lot of things going on in the 60s around the time when this came out. So it would make sense why something with superheroes wouldn't be so serious. It would be lighthearted and serve as more of a distraction. And so we could tell that the audience was young adults, even teenagers, because there were silly lessons like buckle your seatbelts or eat your vegetables, right? Like it was really funny. But on the other side, in The Dark Knight, it was very serious. It was contemplative because it made you think. The Joker, especially even when the Joker movie came out, if any of you saw that, that was something where you were really focused on the character, not necessarily the plot of the comic. And it really made you think about, understanding and empathizing with these characters. So the purpose, when you think about The Dark Knight, it was about this idea of terrorism. I think also The Dark Knight Rises, I think that was with Bane, right? Where it was all about these acts of terrorism and inciting fear. And so these movies are a way to distract us from our own fear of what goes on in our world, but at the same time, help us cope with it through these characters like Batman and the city. And so obviously this is a movie and not a TV show. There are a lot of different things that are different in these small little clips regarding purpose and audience, genre and characteristics, and intended effect, right? All these remakes, when you have the Disney character animation movie versus the live action, I think of Mulan, right? Mulan was really funny, especially with Mushu's character, who was absent, spoiler alert, in the live action Mulan. So you want to think about their different genres, right? Because they have different intentions and they have different purposes, even though they might have similar audiences to an effect, right? The live actions are really geared more towards the older children versus animations are geared towards different types of audiences. So right here, I linked a video of Mr. Perez. He's a good friend of mine. He really goes through in depth each of these clips a little, and these are the same similar notes, but if you need to hear it in a different way or to have a little bit more of an understanding of these different genres and their characteristics, this is a great video. It's about 9 minutes, but especially my audio and visual people, that might be something to help you truly understand the differences between the two. So don't forget, you need to complete your entry for your writer's notebook today, which was page 4 or slide 4, and then you need to complete your attendance question for today. So your attendance question is, what are some characteristics in the 2 versions of Batman that were most helpful to you in distinguishing between the 2 genres? So to put it more simply, what details from both help you identify the two versions and how they were different, right? Like I mentioned things about costumes, or I mentioned things even about music, or even the type of bad guys, right? What was the crime? It was typically like robbery or theft. But then the intentions behind why there's robbery or theft with the Dark Knight and the Joker scene right there too. So think about the notes we just went over. Think about your responses in your writer's notebook entry. Watch Mr. Bettis's video if you need a little bit more clarification on that. But that is today's, okay? Just a couple, maybe 2, 3 details that helped you identify the different versions of Batman that we watched today. And again, those links are in the notes page and they're in your writer's notebook on page 4. Okay? All right, guys, I look forward to seeing you guys hopefully today on Zoom. If not, I hope you had a wonderful break. And please make every effort to join our Zoom meetings this week just to help you truly understand what it is we're doing. I know these videos are great, but there's nothing like seeing it live and being able to ask questions and get an immediate response, okay? All right, yeah, you guys take care. We'll talk to you soon.